see how much I'm sweating? Oh my goodness. Hi everyone, it's Tash and welcome to another recipe video. And today we are going to make some snow skin blueberry cheesecake mooncakes. I was going to do baked cheesecake mooncakes, as I've actually done that before on tashcakes.com, my written blog, but we're having another heat wave at the moment and I am absolutely dripping in sweat. Sorry if that's TMI. I couldn't bear to turn the oven on. So snow skin it is, because that you only need to steam and use stovetop heat for, and you don't have to use the oven. I will say, if you're in the middle of a heat wave at the moment and you don't have air conditioning like me, don't make this yet. You need quite a cool kitchen to be able to work easily with the cheesecake mixture. You'll see what I mean in a minute because I struggled. But I did just about manage to achieve it, as I am posting now, so obviously I did manage to achieve it. And you will find it much easier in a cooler kitchen, rather than my 35°C one. The reason you need a relatively cool kitchen is because otherwise you need to work quite quickly with the filling. You have to freeze the blueberry jam in the middle to make it easier to put in the middle of the cheesecake filling, and then you need that to be solid to be able to work easily to wrap it up in the snow skin dough, which is essentially a sticky rice cake dough. You do need to make the filling a little bit in advance so you can chill it in the freezer and the fridge, but the actual steps are relatively simple. You just need a cool kitchen, a light hand and a little bit of patience. And a bit of practice as well, because you need practice bundling everything up together and wrapping it in the snow skin. So I've already made these, I'm speaking from the past. This recipe makes 12, but you're only going to see 10 at the end because I screwed up twice. I dropped one, and then the other one I used the wrong technique because I was getting hot and tired and confused. But we were still left with some very beautiful mooncakes, so let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. The first thing I'm going to do is freeze some jam, or rather partially freeze it, because jam's very sticky and high in sugar content, so it doesn't actually freeze solidly, because there isn't much water in there to freeze solidly, but we can do the next best thing. I've got myself some nice blueberry jam here. I'll give it a little bit of a stir, pop that there, and all I'm going to do is plop about a half teaspoonful straight on the tray in a rounded blob, and I'm going to do that 12 times. Now we're going to pop this in the freezer overnight for it to firm up. Now we need to go ahead and make the cheesecake filling in advance too. So I've got 200 grams of full fat cream cheese, and I'm going to add in 2 eggs. I'll also add 75 grams of caster sugar too. Give that a bit of a mix. Now I'm going to add 2 teaspoonfuls of corn flour. This is going to help thicken it. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoonfuls of lemon juice, just to give it a little bit of a zing, and a teaspoonful of vanilla extract. And we'll give that a good old stir too. Lovely. Now we need to cook our cheesecake mixture, so to do that I'm going to steam it. I've got a pan here, this is actually just an 8-inch cake pan, and I'm going to lightly brush it with a little vegetable oil, just to help it not stick. Now we're going to pour all of our lovely mixture in. Now let's cook this up. And I'm just going to gently lower this in, and make sure the bottom of your tin here doesn't touch the actual water. Now I'm going to take a lid, which I've covered with some cloth to help prevent drips. Sit that snugly on top, and I'm going to cook this for 30 minutes. So let's carefully take the lid off, being careful not to steam your hands. Ooh, nice. Give it a bit of a jiggle. Yep, that's completely set. So let's rescue this from the heat. Now what I'm actually doing now is I've put all of that cheesecake that we just steamed into a pan because I didn't quite trust that it had set enough, and sure enough it was still quite soft. So I've been cooking this for about 5 minutes and it is now more like a dough. And that was my fault because I set the heat on my steamer too low. If you have quite a high heat on your steamer, 30 minutes should be fine, and I've made this a couple of times. But if you make a mistake, then your cheesecake will be far too soft because we want it to be settable and so we can roll it into balls later. But I failed this time. I didn't cook it enough, but thankfully I had a suspicion, so I poured it into a pan. Well, I didn't pour it, I scooped it into the pan because it's still quite thick. And now I am dry frying it over medium heat. And it is almost done. Okay, now you see how you're able to scoop up and fold it almost like a very soft dough. This is where we want to stop. Now we're going to put this in our greased pan. And now we're going to let this cool completely, then we're going to cover it and let it chill for at least 4 hours, but preferably overnight. So I'll let this chill along with that blueberry jam that's freezing. Our next task is to stuff the cheesecake with that blueberry jam. And actually I'm going to measure how much cheesecake we have, because I want to divide this into 12 portions to make 12 mooncakes, and usually I do it by eye, but I really should measure it out and make them even because I always end up with wonky mooncakes that way. So this time I'm measuring it. So this is our chilled cheesecake, nice and solid. I forgot to zero the thing, hang on. Rookie mistake. Put that on, zero it, and put that in. We have 323 grams. Then we just do a little bit of maths, divide that by 12. So that's about 26 to 27 grams per portion. So what we're going to do first is beat this up a little bit to loosen it up. There we go, that will do. I've got my frozen blueberry jam ready right here, and I'm going to measure 27 gram balls of cheesecake, and hopefully that's going to make 12. Let's get started. I'm just going to rough it for now. Good. Now what I'm going to do is roll this a bit. I'm going to make it like a dumpling. Be very quick because the heat of your hands is going to make this even softer, even more soft rather. And then we're going to put some jam in the middle and close it up just like a dumpling. Give it a quick old roll. Doesn't have to be neat at this point. I'm going to steal some from the thicker edge and put it where I can see there are any thin bits. Good. And I'm going to plop it on a tray here because we're going to pop it in the fridge in a minute just to keep them cool. And we're going to do that again and again and again until we have 12. And here we have our 12 balls of blueberry jam stuffed cheesecake. Not gonna lie, that was a bit of a challenge towards the end because we're having yet another heat wave at the moment, and that blueberry jam completely melted and the cheesecake mixture softens because it's quite hot at the moment, so I had to work really delicately. But I persevered, and yeah, it's still possible even on a hot day. So now that I've got these stuffed cheesecake blueberry dumplings, I'm going to pop these back in the fridge until the snow skin outer part is completely cool and we are ready to wrap. Let's make our snow skin, and this one is going to take us a while as well because we need to steam it and then also let it cool completely. Let's get started. First we need 35 grams of glutinous rice flour, and this is going to give it a lovely springy texture, nice and chewy. 35 grams of rice flour, this is regular rice flour, not glutinous. This will make it a little bit more tender. 25 grams of corn flour, again this gives it a more tender texture so it's not too chewy like a true mochi. 30 grams of icing sugar, I'm going to start to make a little well in the centre, doesn't really matter. This is 20 grams of Trex vegetable shortening, but you can use vegetable oil, or some people even use coconut oil. 15 grams of sweetened condensed milk. And now I'm going to gradually stir in 150 millilitres of milk. Now at this stage I'm also going to add a teeny bit of colouring. This will also help us see if there are any lumps in there, and I think there are, but don't worry, we're going to strain those too. I'm actually going to add a little bit of blue and a little bit of purple, because I don't want it to be artificially blue, but I don't want it to be too purple as if it were purple sweet potato, which would be a different thing. Let me just add a little bit of blue first and see how that goes. Definitely needs more. Put a good drop in there. Add a little bit of purple. Lovely. Now I'm going to actually strain this into another bowl to get rid of any lumps that are in there. I'm sure there are quite a few. Make sure you're smushing any lumps back into the batter, by the way. You need that starch for it to set. Give it a bit of a stir, and finally we are going to strain it one last time into a lightly oiled pan, and we're going to steam this. Just like before, we steamed it for 30 minutes, and this time I made sure that the heat was high enough, and that is completely set. So let's rescue that from the heat. Now I'm actually going to place this in a bowl and wait until it's cool enough to handle. I'm actually also going to put a plate on this so it doesn't dry out, so just wait about 5 minutes until it's just warm and easy to handle. Now I have some gloves on because the next bit's a little bit sticky. This is still a little bit warm, but we need to knead it until it becomes a really smooth dough. There we are, nice and smooth and shiny. And I'm actually going to measure this too, because I also want to divide it into 12 equal pieces. So this is 246 grams. Oh, 245, which means I need each ball to be 20 to 21 grams approximately. So I'm going to do that now. Here we are. I've just covered these lightly because I don't want to dry, and now we're going to move on to the final phase of our project. Now I've got a 50 gram mooncake mould here. It's got a very cute bunny design, and I have a plate of cold fun flour. This is cooked glutinous rice flour. You want to make sure it's cooked, otherwise it's going to have a very, very unpleasant texture when you eat it. So make sure you get cooked glutinous rice flour. And remember our cheesecake balls, we're bringing them back too. And I also have a little bowl of vegetable oil. What we're going to do is we're going to take a ball of our snow skin powder. I'm just going to oil up a little bit, but not too much. And I'm going to start pressing this into a disc. This. Stick a cheesecake ball in the middle and bring up that mochi all around it. Now we're going to dust it with just a little bit of cold fun flour. Shape it a little bit, just so it fits in the mould a little bit more easily. Plop it in the mould. Give it a little squeeze down. Place it on the flat surface. Plunge. Wait a few seconds. and release. And you have a super cute mooncake. Let's do that again and again and again. So here we have some super cute snow skin cheesecake mooncakes, and you'll realise that there are 10 and a couple have bald patches because as I was doing this the kitchen climbed to 35 degrees C because we're currently having a heat wave, and the cheesecake started melting, going gooey, so it became really difficult to work with, and so a little bit leaked out along the way. So don't do this during a heat wave. And there are 10 here because 1, I accidentally plopped it in the oil instead of the cold fun flour and it came out a little bit gooey, so it's not the best work. And as for the 12th one, I dropped it. I dropped it on the counter, not on the floor, and I ate it because there was no saving it. So because it's so hot, I'm actually going to pop these in the fridge for another couple of hours. If you're having a cool day, you can eat them straight away, but these are super squishy and soft, so I'm going to put them back in the fridge. And of course we have to cut one in half, just so we can see what's going on inside and have a lovely little cross section. These are absolutely gorgeous and so delicious too. Do make sure you keep them in a sealed container and eat them in a couple of days, because after the second day the snow skin does tend to get a bit hard because it dries. Well, these were a massive pain in the arse to make, but my gosh, were they worth it? Absolutely. You can see how squishy they are. They're a bit firmer in cooler weather, but because it's nice and hot, horrendously hot, as you can see they've melted a bit and become a bit softer, but that's also part of the charm, and they're still going to be delicious. So I am living life on the edge and I'm wearing white whilst trying to eat a berry type thing, so here's a plate just to save my dress, and cheers! Oh, that's amazing. The snow skin outer bit is so tender, a little bit chewy, very smooth, amazing. It's more tender than a mochi, although I love mochi, but this is definitely something a bit different. And the inside is so creamy and fruity, delicious. Remember we used cooked cold fun flour to roll the mooncakes in to stop them from sticking? The outer bit of traditional snow skin mooncakes are actually made with cold fun flour and not cooked. And I've actually done that in a couple of previous recipes, I'll link one above now. But it also has its pitfalls despite being a simpler recipe with fewer ingredients. Because the flour is pre-cooked, it absorbs water and liquids in a different way. So it can be a bit of a trick to get it to the right consistency to be able to roll it into balls and flatten it out. So simple in terms of fewer ingredients, but I'd say about the same in terms of actual difficulty in making it. In terms of texture, Ko-Fun Snow Skin is a bit lighter, almost airy and moussey. I love it. But the smoothness of this type of cooked snow skin mooncake is very delicious. I love them both. There's only a slight difference. Next week I hope I can make a baked one, but not sure yet. It all depends on the weather and whether the heat wave will let up a bit, because there's no way I'm turning the oven on if it is. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope you will join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full recipe on my blog tashcakes.com and follow me on Instagram. I am tashcakes.tastes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I'll see you guys next time. Be good, be nice, and have a good week. Let's get my hair up. So sweaty.